I'm Warren Davis, and you're watching the Evercade Effect.
Evercade Effect.
Welcome to the Evercade Effect. This is Ed. It's 2024. All right, time to get back out and do some videos. I am just super excited. By the way, how are you liking my my Dreamcast shirt? This was one of the Christmas presents that I got from my brother-in-law. Anyways, that's not why you tuned into this video. What we're going to talk about is the Super Pocket. Yeah, that little guy behind me. And before I get into this, if you haven't checked out my initial impressions video, my first look, go ahead and click on the card up above or in the description below, where I went ahead and played the Super Pocket for the first time, went through all the games and the feel and all that, and I told a really good story behind how I got it, and I didn't have to technically pay any money for it. So yeah, watch it if you haven't. For a while now on Evercast, on their videos, you know, if you're a follower of this channel, if you're not a follower of this channel and you do like what you see, please consider subscribing. We did just recently cross our 1,000 sub mark, and I am so grateful and happy for everybody who's taken the journey with me. So, anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked. So, I've talked a lot about the Super Pocket before. Before that, I wanted to spend more time with it, kind of talk about the feel, the buttons, the screen. And so, what I did is I compared a video that's going to talk about all that. But we're also going to compare it to the VS. Yes, this isn't a video to talk about the portability and everything else. This is a video to talk about the comfort, the feel, the screens. Of course, the VS is less important because any TV that you plug it into is going to be better, because you could plug it into a 65-inch or anything that you want. But I did compare the controller because it's important, and I did want to talk about all the different devices, the OG, the Purple, the EXP, how they all play, the feel and all that. And again, I have to give my usual disclaimer, because the goal of this video is for me to share my experiences. I don't want to take away from someone's enjoyment, nor am I going to say, this way is better than that way. No, I'm not going to do any of that. This is just for me. These are my thoughts and opinions. If you have a certain device that I talk about here, and you love the way to play, and to you all the devices are inferior, that's okay. You know, I don't care how you game in general. I don't care how you play Evercade. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. These are just my opinions and all that. I would like to hear in the comments below if I do say something and you have strong opinions. Let's get a conversation going. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to flip back here in a second. I'm going to go through all the devices. I'm going to talk about analyzing the screens, the buttons, the comfort, because that's very important, everything else. And we're even going to throw in the Game Boy Advance into the mix because it's similar in certain things and whatnot. And we're just going to go through this. I didn't want to do a rating system and be like, oh, well, I'm going to give this one, 5 points for a better screen and 5 points for comfort. Let's tally up an Excel sheet. I hate those kind of videos that are just based on data. What I think is more important is look and feel, right? I mean, anybody can go ahead and Google, look on Wikipedia, see the size of the LCD screens, which, by the way, the Super Pocket is, is like a 2.8 inches, and the GBASP is a 2.9. So just saying, anybody can go look at the nerd facts. I just wanted to go from the perspective of the look and feel, like really analyze it, compare them, see what I'm looking at. Things may get a little bit fumbly, but I think it's going to be fun. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to dive into that. It is quite long. It's like, I think, 30 minutes of good geeky analysis. So if you like that type of thing, excellent. If not, if you skip around, it won't hurt my feelings. But for those of you who watch the video to the end, you'll have a special surprise. And those of you who've done that know what I mean. So let's get into the analysis without further ado. And then after that, we'll kind of come into conclusions, final thoughts, and all that good stuff. Okay, so remember this old friend, the OG Evercade? So first, I want to talk about the comfort. And undoubtedly, this handheld here is so super comfortable. So let's start with the D-pad. The D-pad feels great, no issues moving in all directions. I played the hell out of this with Xeno Crisis until the initial version 1 of these had an issue with the D-pad, where after a while it would just kind of break over here. This is my replacement one, haven't had any since. And since for the replacements, the D-pad does feel tighter, but still the original was great. One thing notably that I love about the OG Evercade, these buttons, they don't feel mushy at all. You can hear the clickiness, which is great. Same with start and select, and I do like the positions of the start and select button are great. And a menu over here, everything on this just feels so good. You can hold this for hours. So yeah, comfort is really important. They definitely nailed it on the OG Evercade. Now moving on, I do want to talk about the limited edition Evercade that came out in the purple. And we'll get to the screens. Don't worry, don't worry. Let me move this over here. So you can see they did improve the D-pad. Actually, I don't know if it does justice on camera, but quite a bit. This feels more EXP-ish. It feels a little bit tighter. Than the white, just by a hair. I mean, it's basically about the same. Buttons still really feel good. All the same layout. The main difference is the screen. When we get to screens, we'll talk about that. But yeah, this one is really good. So now in the timeline, I'm going to talk about the VS. Well, the VS isn't portable, and you can have whatever screen that you want. I think it's important to talk about the comfort and the design of this controller. So I do like how everything is rounded. I know maybe some people may think it's a little bit blocky, but no, it really adds to the comfort. So putting your fingers behind here, where L and R, these butt cheeks, like really help for the comfort. And this is my favorite D-pad. You can see, if we kind of compare it even to the OG D-pad, it's like they took that, they made it a little bit better. It feels, so the directional keys, they feel a little bit longer, if that makes sense. And for me, I really like that. And then you just have good control, all directionals. The buttons are just, so here's the thing. The buttons are just a tad bit mushier when you press them. They don't feel as good as the OG buttons. I mean, they're fine, but if we're getting nitpicky, they really don't. The placement of start and select and menu, they do take a little bit, right? That, to be desired. L and R, L2, R2 are fine. But yeah, for me on this, the D-pad is definitely king. And then if I rate, let's say if these buttons here, if I on a scale on a 1 to 10, if I were to rate these a 10, just being perfect, I love them. I would definitely rate like the VS buttons, like maybe like a 9. I mean, they're so close. They just feel that much different. All right. So now we have the EXP. And the EXP, so here's what's very different. This D-pad is so smooth. It's not textured. Sort of, it's closer to the Steam Deck D-pad, but not really. But it's different. When you play this, it takes a little bit to get used to. However, once you do get used to it, you will see that it feels fine. So this I really like, because I've gotten used to it. This is my second favorite D-pad, even though both the purple and OG white handhelds are great. Nothing wrong with it. Now the buttons here, the buttons are good. They're a little bit smaller, which is kind of weird when you're used to pressing. Like you can see here, they're definitely smaller, and then they're still smaller than the VS. So they're good. I think I still like the VS buttons better. I like the OG buttons better. So I would maybe rate this, just, I don't know, just a tiny bit, maybe like an 8.5. But they're fine. They just feel different. These don't feel really mushy at all. That's the thing, that pressing them in feels a little bit better than the VS. It's just mainly the size. Now the placement of the buttons, that definitely takes getting used to. The weight in the hand of this is great, and it is super comfortable. So there's definitely, there's no issues at all there. All right. So now with all that compared, let's go to the Super Pocket. So with the Super Pocket, first, if we're talking about the buttons, these buttons definitely they feel the most mushy. They really don't feel as good as the EXP or any of the other devices here. They don't feel super cheap, but the difference is when I hold, like, man, it feels good. When you pick one of these up, it's like it's made for your hand. It feels good. That's the best way. That's what she said. It's the best way to describe it. Even with the EXP, when you pick this up here, it really feels good in the hand. This doesn't. I think it's a vertical handheld. We really just don't get that same feel. So the buttons feel a lot cheaper than me. Now, as far as the construction, like, it feels solid. Menu, select, those are fine. But these buttons just aren't as good. They don't feel as good being pressed. And you can see they're tiny. So that's the other thing. Let's take a look. It looks like compared to the EXP, they're about the same size and they're in the same spot. They're just closer together. But, It just they don't feel as good. Now the D-pad feels the weirdest of them all. It feels really stiff. You see how it's a lot skinnier if we compare it to the VS controller. So you look at that. It's a lot. It's, I think I've heard some people say it's the same as the VS or the other Evercades. No, it's completely different. The VS you can see here is a lot fatter. It feels better. That's the whole thing of this device. It feels like it's just really crammed for space. I mean, that's the idea. But this just does not feel as good. If we take a look at the OG, you can see it's a skinnier version, but it just doesn't feel as good. You had to put, and you'll notice that when you play games. I mean, it's fine for platformers and whatnot, but for me, if you need more precision, it's just not there. So yeah, that's the first thing, the D-pad. Now, the power switch, it gets a definite win. It's in the opposite direction compared to this one. But I don't know if that was just done by design, if that was a mistake. Now, both the Super Pocket and the OG and the purple went out over the EXP, because when you press, you like lightly touch it and it'll automatically turn on. I don't know why they couldn't have made it like the VS where you had to hold it, but I just have some concerns when you travel. The VS, you had to hold it down for a few seconds. I wish they did the same thing here. While we're on the topic of that, don't worry, we'll get to the screens. Now, for reference, I want to bring up the Game Boy Advance, because so you will notice if we put the Game Boy Advance and it's side by side, that they're about the same. I don't know if I can do this justice. They're about the same thickness. There we go. So as far as for thickness, they're fine. I'm sorry, not thickness, width. Thickness, the Pocket is definitely thicker, but in width they're about the same for hand space. Yeah, obviously you can see that it's thicker. But the one thing that you'll notice, as far as like for placement of buttons and all that, if you look here, the Game Boy Advance SP, it isn't as cramped. You have a little bit more. You have like a little bit more room. See how the start and select are way down here, and a tiny, not much, but just enough to make it a little bit more comfortable. And that was kind of one of the biggest things, that playing this for a while, 20 minutes, it does cramp your hand. Even though Game Boy Advance, I jump in and I jump out. But the buttons and everything on the GBA feel so much better. They feel a million times better than the Pocket. Now, if you go ahead and go back to the OG Evercade, this feels a lot better than the Game Boy Advance, and not just because of the room, but the buttons, they just feel more solid. You have a bigger D-pad. Even though this D-pad here is tiny, it still feels better, because there's not like, see, the other Evercades, they have like the diagonals and everything filled in with the circle, but it works. It doesn't work as well on the Pocket. Here, it doesn't have that. This D-pad, it's small. It doesn't feel as good. I mean, it feels better to me than the Pocket, for sure, but it doesn't feel as good as any of the other Evercades. The buttons feel solid. They don't feel mushy. And you notice the buttons are about the same size as the Pocket, but they feel better here. If we go ahead and we compare it, and I'm surprised I haven't accidentally powered on the XP. Actually, the XP does feel a little bit better than the GBA, but they still feel good. So now, I do want to go ahead and talk about, actually, before we get to the screen, so yeah, this just feels a little bit better in the hand. You can put your fingers, they just kind of go around here. I don't really play many games with LNR, but yeah, this just feels better. You have that tiny bit more room to not make it as cramped. Even though this is a little bit thicker, I feel a lot more cramped. And it goes without saying that the L1 and R2 buttons are horrendous. You cannot press these easily. I think they're just put here because why not? Time making this video, a few games in Evercade require these buttons, but you're not going to want to use them. If anything, they're just kind of there as a little bit of a ledge, but still your hands feel really cramped. And another thing I do want to point out, I will say that playing in Tate mode is, I don't know. I want to say, maybe are they about as cramped? I don't know. It's because because this you can kind of do this. There's not as much to grab onto, and I think that's kind of the problem. You have a much better D-pad. Maybe that's what I'm able to deal with it. But yeah, this still feels a little bit cramped. Maybe they're a little bit about equal. Maybe I've just gotten used to the EXP. I don't know. It's a tough question. But yeah, we will get to the screen. But let's go ahead and turn on one of these devices. I want you to listen for something. See if it comes through here. Come on. So for me, that is so loud on the lowest volume, and it's louder than any of the other devices. You could put your thumb over here, but the volume button, it's in an awkward spot. What you can do, as soon as you turn it on, you can go ahead and turn it down, and then once you go ahead and turn it down, then if you catch it before the screen, it'll be mute. Now, there is one thing that is important. I do want to touch on with both of this and the EXP is that it's kind of like when you turn. Is it turning on? Really? I just okay, there we go. There's the green light. Okay, you know what? I think it was turning on and I accidentally turned it off. I couldn't see it. Let's hear this startup noise. Sorry for the glare. Let's hear the startup noise. So that's not nearly as loud, and there's just something soothing about it, versus I feel like the hypermagnetic check, it's like it sounds like you broke a bunch of pots and pans or threw them on the ground and broke a bunch of dishes. For me, I am, I do have sensory issues and noise and stuff I do pay extra attention to. Both the problem with these devices is that when you go to set and turn the volume off, it's kind of like mute or loud, and then you turn the volume up louder and louder, especially the Super Pocket on this lowest setting is still way too loud. Louder than the EXP. That's one thing I did want to address. When we are comparing things. So if we look at the screens, so let's start again. Here, let me fire up. Gotta fire up both of these here. Then I almost turned off my EXP to setting it down. Who remembers that wonderful sound? Yeah, and again, they have the good switches that we all like. You're not gonna accidentally turn these on in your bag. So, right off the bat, you can, and this is just from a flat angle, you can see how the original OG is washed out. Now, I will say at the time, being that was my main only handheld, didn't really know any better. The screen was fine for the longest time. So it definitely gets the job done, but it's the worst. Yeah. See, I have to hold this head on. It gets the job done, but it's definitely the worst screen for sure. You look at it directly, but it's not super horrible. It keeps going into sleep mode, but it's what we had for a while. But definitely, it's not nearly as good as the Pocket and the XP that we'll get into here in a moment. Now, the purple handheld. This one, it was kind of like a 1.5 screen. It still nearly isn't as good as the Super Pocket or XP, but it was just kind of nice. I mean, they did this purple revision, and I don't know if they couldn't source the original screens or got a better deal, but you could even see, holding it here without the glare, that it's much better. Now, we're not going to talk about the VS, because you can plug this into any TV. It's not going to be portable, but it's going to be the best screen, so there's no point. Now here you could just see that the images are so crisp, right? No matter what angle I turn this to, nothing gets washed out. The EXP is fantastic. And it does go without saying that the EXP and the OG and the purple, they all the same screen size. And for those of you who are lucky enough to get the black Evercade, because I know someone's going to bring that up from the limited order bundle where the faceplate was black. It's the same thing as the white one. So I don't own that, but I know somebody will say something. So you can see this screen looks really good. It doesn't get washed out in the different angles. And if we put that here, and see if I can fit these both here. Put these side by side. Yeah, they both look really good. And other than the size of the Super Pocket screen, I really have no complaints. So that's kind of one of the things is the Super Pocket. It's 2.8. Let me go ahead and we'll turn on the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance is a 2.9. It's a widescreen. Now, uh-oh. Oh, you know what? I hit the volume button. See, that you can turn down because it's hard-coded. Now, I've heard Crow, I know he said that these games are more stretched. They are, but not more stretched, but they're more widescreen. Sorry, that was the wrong terminology. But because they are widescreen, they're a little bit bigger, and for me, it is easier in my eyes to see if I'm talking about just space. If we're talking about like getting into the game and quality of the screen, yeah, the SP is it's dog crap compared compared to Super Pocket. Super Pocket, like screen wise, it wins it hands down as far as like quality and everything else. You can see that there's bad reflections and whatnot. Although I will say, as far as viewability, so it depends on the games, like Bubble Bobble, Liquid Kids. The games that it comes with on here, look pretty good as but if I'm playing like an original Game Boy game like Tetris, and yes, if I do stretch it, the fill on the screen, it looks a lot bigger. If I'm playing other games like in the right light, and I should mention like turning off the light here. Oh my god, that's horrible. If I do that, then I think what I'm trying to say, being fumbly, is that this is a portable device, and the characters and sprites are a little bit bigger, and so they, like Nintendo did have that in mind. Versus this, we're taking existing games. So the screen, yeah, I understand that this device needs to be portable, but it's not, portability. By the way, the SP wins them all. I mean, if they did this form factor, that would have been epic. I would have loved that. And you can see the card slots and everything are about the same size. If they did that and had the screen be like a little bit bigger, yeah, that would have. But anyways, that's a whole other topic. So the thing that kind of irritates me, this bezel, it is weird handhelds with bezels in 2023. If they had filled in the rest of that screen, it would have made a huge difference. When you have screens, at this size, an extra couple of inches definitely makes a big difference as far as visibility. That's what she said. If you have young eyes and whatnot, yeah, okay, fine. It's not going to make as much of a difference. So yeah, well, the screen is better. It's better. It's the purple one is doable. If I'm going on a trip though, pocketability, yeah, I'm probably going to bring this. It's a cheaper device. Obviously, it has built-in games. And if I lose this, I can buy another one. It's the purple one is pretty much irreplaceable. So yeah, I did want to point that out. Screen wise, I think for me with this device, if they made a version of it that was a little bit bigger, had a little bit screen, had a little more comfortable, that would have really been huge here. So now one thing I want to talk about. Let me kind of adjust more of the controls. Let me put in something like Atari. And actually, before I do that, let me go back to Bubble Bobble, just to kind of show what I mean by the sprites being bigger. Whew, the glare. Probably hear you might be able to hear all the mixed musics or not. Oh, picked the wrong Bubble Bobble. See? Puzzle Bobble. No, I didn't want that. I want a Bubble Bobble. Yeah, just going through here is just really tiny. Now, then again, I do wear glasses, so your mileage will vary if you have like better eyes and all that. You may not even care, but the way the screen size and the controls, it's more designed for a child. I think I've said that before. So yeah, well, this is you can kind of go here. That's not bad, right? So let me go ahead and exit out of this. Now, let me pop in Atari. And, I was expecting it to go here, go to Evercade. Now, with Atari, the sprites and all that, they do feel like a lot, it looks a lot smaller. Let me not look through the camera here, it'd be a little bit easier. Okay, let me go to Food Fight. And I'll show you what I mean with the D-pad. See if I can kind of get it to do it. So, see that? Like, I'm moving it, and see how I can't move my character? I have to press, you have to do a lot more broader strokes. I swear to God, I don't mean so many innuendos. See that? Like, when I'm going up in diagonals, I have to do broader strokes. If I kind of go in the middle, see how it's kind of locked like that? And why do I point this out? Well, it depends on how you use the D-pad. And for me, I like to make smaller strokes. I swear to God, the endo. Smaller strokes just to have more of that fine control. But you can see here when I do that, it's like it locks the D-pad. And it's just not, to use this to play, you really have to like change the way that you game. So for me, I was like, oh man, like, let me go ahead and exit out of this. But if we go ahead, so you go back to like the OG. Oh, I took it out of there. I thought, go back there, and let me illustrate this better. Actually, you know what? Because it's the same D-pad, let me go. I have Namco Museum in here. Awesome. I usually like to keep the Namcos in there because, you can only play those on the portable. I should have turned off the sleep. Let me do this. Yeah, so you can actually see it. Let me go back to Food Fight. And so, yeah, you have the borders, but it doesn't really matter. But you still have a little bit better for real screen real estate. So, see how like I can just like move around like this? I don't have to like put it all the way at the end. Yeah, I do apologize for the glare, but this is the best way to show. I can, if I move around like this, I don't have to worry about where my placement is on the D-pad, is what I'm trying to say. And I kind of find that like with the Super Pocket, like I really had to get used to it. And I don't know if I'm still used to it. It was just like it changes the way that you game, right? And I always say controls are king. But yeah, see how it's in the middle. I don't have to do that. I can just. And where I really got used to this was on the EXP. So if we go into there, let's take out Duke. With the EXP, and the VS especially, I feel like you really have, fine control over that. So yeah, see the screen. There's no glare at all. I mean, the screen is just so good. With the exception of when it's like loading on a black screen, then yeah, you can see all the smudges and everything kind of a downside. But see, look, like the sensitivity is just so, it's just so good. I feel like I have so much better control. I can move my fingers anywhere. I can do that. I don't have to worry. And because of the smoothness, like I really got used to that. Like this like feels like really good just after playing for hours. So yeah, that's what I wanted to showcase. And so why am I mentioning this? Because then when you're, I'll kind of talk about it, but while you have a good screen with the controls are just kind of, it's kind of meh like that, it makes a big difference. Now your casual person may not even, may not even care, definitely not. But it is something that I wanted to point out. And then, yeah, obviously I showed a hook to the screen, but yeah, I think you all know you can do this, you can do that. There's definitely no issues with the VS itself. As far as battery life, it's kind of all varies and whatnot. Here's one other comparison that I did want to show. Kind of on the screen. So and to illustrate this, yes, let's go to the OG, and I'm going to load Pac-Man for a reason. If I can find it here, which I'm having difficulties. Nope, not packets. Oh my gosh. I think they just kind of says something for the OG screen. Oh, this is an Namco Collection 2. That actually is not going to help me at all. But luckily, nope, I have Atari here. If I have Atari here, then what do I have in Namco? What do I have in a... Sorry. I am totally... Wow. All of you are laughing at me. Yeah. You know what? I just had a serious brain fart and forgot that Atari was the very first collection. And if you're wondering why I have duplicates, it's because when I got my replacement OG, it came with that. Wow. My apologies for all the fumbliness there. I don't know why I thought... Maybe in my brain I was thinking like, Namco's #1. I think that's what it was. We'll just go with that. All right. So yeah, obviously I didn't have the right... There we go. There's Pac-Man. Wow. Have the right cart in there. So let's get into this. Let's load it up. And with this, it's kind of to show the screen. It's just kind of like, yeah, with the, I guess with the with my camera and like the light like shining, like really like shining on it. Yeah, you can see it better, but it's just like, I want to see how this. Let's see how this turns out compared to what. See if when I can get through on the camera comes through with the purple. But yeah, for a long time, this was the only way you could really play, play Pac-Man, right? Okay. Now, do I have anything in there? No. Now, with the purple handheld, this was much better. You can like really see the ghost and all that. I don't know if that's going to come through on the camera. For those of you who have with the models, you'll know what I mean. But it was just like you really couldn't see the ghosts. This with the flash shining out. So this, like, yeah, you can really just like really see everything well. So for a while, especially having a good D-pad and everything, this was just the only way you could really play it. I would say preferred way. Because you can't use this on the. For those of you who don't know, you can't use this on the VS. So now we go ahead and we go here, and yeah, now actually like looking through my camera, I can actually see everything. Look how crisp that screen looks. It doesn't it just doesn't compare. I can remember the other one, so it's just like wow. And I'm kind of just showing this like for a reason here. So yeah. So this is the only way you can play Pac-Man. You can clearly see all the ghosts. Everything is clear. You have like really good controls. For me, everything is excellent. Right? And everything looks good. Nothing looks, squanch and all that. Because you can see on the right-hand side of Pac-Man that real estate is taken up, by your lives and, fruit and all that, score and all that. So now let's take this out. Go back to the Super Pocket. Put this in. So yeah, you do have the portability. So it's like, all right, I've got that. Fantastic. Man, I keep expecting it to load automatically. And then, wow, get used to scrolling here. And you'll notice too, they did change the artwork, which is neat. I guess with the recent firmware updates, that is actually really neat. The artwork they changed for that. I was just noticing. I wasn't sure if I imagined that or not. So, yeah. So you could just see like you don't, well, the screen and everything looks great. It looks better than the purple, much better than the OG. It's still squanched. Like it's playable and all that, but it's not as good as an experience. So that's I just wanted to point out the differences because this is the only way you can play Pac-Man in the Evercade universe. Not the only way, of course, you can play it. And the thing too is like, see, if I want to like move around and press in the middle, I can't. I really have to press on the ends. Really get used to it. For some people, this might not be an issue, but for me, right away when I played it, I was like, why can't? What's going on? Platformers and everything else did notice a difference, but for games that require more precision and all that, yeah, there was still that big difference. So yeah, just wanted to go ahead and test that. Okay. So that's me. I think I've gone ahead and I've really compared everything from all the different Evercades, from the OGs, threw in the Advance for a mix, and of course, the new EXP, and then the VS. It's relevant because again, this isn't about playing just portably. This is playing the Evercade ecosystem itself. So now that we've gone ahead and done all our testing, let me go ahead and wrap up, kind of give final thoughts, kind of give a review of everything. Now that we've gone through and thoroughly analyzed the controls, the display, etc. Alrighty then. So we went ahead and we talked about all the different goodness of the Pocket, compared it to all the other devices and all that fun stuff. And by the way, I left the Steam Deck out on purpose. It's not part of the Evercade ecosystem. It's a much more expensive device. It's not fair to compare it, so that's why I didn't even go there. So let's talk about, kind of what I think and everything that I compared. So I do want to talk about who is this device for, and I've touched on this many times. And if somebody who wasn't into Evercade, if they would have asked me like, would you get the Super Pocket? And my answer is this. If you're wanting to get into Evercade and have a good experience, I would not recommend the Super Pocket. Well, why, you may say? Because you can see through all the testing that using the EXP and the VS is just superior. Yes, there's a difference in price point, but there is for that reason. And I think, honestly, if you buy the Super Pocket, just getting into the Evercade ecosystem, and you really like it, you're going to wish you had a better device to play it on. For all the testing and everything. The one thing, of course, that the Super Pocket outshines everything else at, and that for one, it has a great screen, and for the cost and the portability. So if you're going on a trip and going on vacation, I'm like, yeah, take your Super Pocket with you. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable, like putting this in a bag, putting it in a case than you would putting your EXP and of course the VS. What are you, crazy? Why are you bringing your VS on vacation? So yeah, and it's more of a disposable Evercade, for lack of a better word. If something happens to it, yeah, it sucks to be out $60, but that's a lot less painful than having to buy another like 150 Evercade, or 130. I'm sorry, for the non-special editions, 130. And that's the other thing, price point. The VS you can get in at I think it's 110 USD. You get like 2 carts. So definitely it's not too expensive, for getting into this ecosystem. So if somebody new to Evercade, my question to them would be, hey, are you just kind of wanting this as a casual device, just to kind of play on the go, kind of a little throwaway device here? Or are you really wanting to get into Evercade? If they're really wanting to get into Evercade, then the question is, are you a handheld gamer or are you a VS gamer? I'm sorry, a console gamer. If you're a console gamer, yes, you want to be in front of a TV screen, you want to use control, and sit back and be comfortable, then definitely you're going to want the VS. So the question is, I want to do both. If it's, hey, when I play my Evercade at home, it's going to be on the VS. However, when I go and travel and everything else, I'd like something a little portable, then get both. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you'll have what I mean by both, I mean, get yourself the Super Pocket and get yourself the VS. Man, I am really tripping over my words today. Then once you do that, you have the best of both worlds. If you're strictly a handheld gamer and you want something for both at home and on the go, and maybe more of a budget, then yes, the EXP is great. I also think, too, for the Super Pocket, if it's like, hey, you know what? I love Blaster Master. I'm going to get the Sunsoft collection. I really want to be able to play Blaster Master on the go. I'm not too serious about, sitting down and playing the Evercade for extended periods of time. Then the Super Pocket is fine. I think that's kind of the ultimate question. How long do you plan on playing these games? Do you want the portability? What is it that you want to do? Now, of course, there's a Taito collection. And unless you're like a super Taito fan or Capcom fan, then it's like, don't get it just for that. There's many other ways to play. Although if you are like a huge Capcom fan and you want the portability of it, then get the EXP, because you're going to have everything else superior in every way, from the comfort to the fit for the screen. And you can even plug that into a television. You can't do multiplayer, or you can't do local multiplayer. So that's the other downside. Of course, both the EXP and VS have wireless, so it has you there. If you want to be more comfortable, and then with the with the EXP, yeah, you can sit back and be comfortable extended periods of time. I found that when I play, like if I want to jump in and do something like Tate mode, it's going to be a shooter. A lot of the shooters, unless you're just like have godlike abilities, you're not going to be playing that for like over like 20, 30 minutes on end. You're really, you're really not. So you could easily switch back between like, Tate mode and normal mode if your hands start to get cramped. You can't do that on the Super Pocket. With the Super Pocket, it's like your hands feel cramped, then I go ahead and just set that down and play on my Steam Deck. No, for real though, you're gonna want to set that down and play on something else. So that's why I wanted to go through this video. Who is this for? I think really the Super Pocket is for the casual gamer. I think it's for your hardcore collectors. I think somebody who seriously wants to get into Evercade, get the better device. And what I mean by the better, get the device that's more comfortable, that has the better screen. Getting this for your kids, of course, then yeah, there's no problems and all that. So that's what I wanted to point out. I by no means I think it's a bad device. I just hope that if Blaze comes out with a revised EXP and they go the vertical route, they make it a little bit bigger, have a bigger screen, have those borders cut off. Yes, that's nice for most of the games. Now there's the other elephant in the room that I do want to talk about. Let me take a sip of my coffee. I do apologize for the grossness here. other big elephant in the room is the fact that I don't like them following the arcade 1-up model. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is the arcade 1-up, you like want to play Pac-Man, Dig Dug, and all that, you have to buy a cabinet. You want to play NBA Jam, you have to buy a new cabinet. Obviously, that's due to licensing and everything, but every time you have to buy a new cabinet, of course, unless you mod it or whatever. I know, Crow, you're watching, and you're going to say that in the comments. But the whole point of the Evercade ecosystem is cartridges, right? And this really defeats the purpose in that if you want to play the Taito collection and the Evercade ecosystem as we know it today, at the time of recording this video, you could only do that through the Super Pocket. And I say that because who knows, maybe sometime later this year, maybe they might decide to come with cart releases. Yeah, I think hell's going to freeze over before that. But that is a big problem. I don't like, oh, well, you want to play these games. It's trapped in this device. You have to buy that. Now, we did run into that with the Capcom collection, sure, but as I went through and I analyzed and compared everything, you get the much better device, more comfortable, bigger screen. You're not limited. Yes, you can't play that on the VS. That's for a whole nother video. But the difference between the EXP and the Super Pocket, and that Blaze just didn't release the EXP, and they just didn't release that, so you could go ahead and. What I'm trying to say is they were just like, oh, you want to buy this only to play Capcom? No. You can see by the other handheld devices that really you got an upgraded screen, and this was just a bonus on top of it. Yeah, you got you got an excellent feel, you got top tier mode. What I'm saying is you're paying for all these extra features. It wasn't as advertised, oh, you're only getting this to play the Capcom games. No, with the Super Pocket, it really feels like that. Because I know a lot of you in the community have commented on Discord and other social medias that you're getting the Taito one. There's a reason for that, because you're like, yeah, that's the only way these games are locked behind here. I want to play that. So understandably, I think what I've seen people get the Capcom is that if they're not in the Evercade ecosystem at all, and they want to kind of just play those games. So that's another thing. If, let's say, I was not into Evercade at all. Let's say I was never into Evercade. I was, let's say, like your different type of gamer. I got a PS5. I played more of the modern games, or, kind of stuck with more modern indie games. And I heard about this cool little device that you could play all these like awesome Capcom games on, and it's, and it's legit, and it's plug and play at only $60. That is definitely for the win. And I think that's who it's for. Like, if you're not in this ecosystem and you're not planning on getting in this ecosystem and you just want to casually play games, yeah, the Super Pocket is fantastic for that. But if you want to sit down at any length of time and be comfortable screen-wise and controller-wise, you're definitely going to want something else. So that's really what I think that comes down to. How do you want to use the device? What's your intentions, right? But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Why you got a Super Pocket? If you disagree with me, on any of these things that I talked about. But I felt like that I've been fair. And I've really just had this device for a while. And one of the tests that I did is I would just kind of keep it, by the nightstand. And for a while, I would jump in, and I would play like how far can I get like in Bubble Bobble or Kiki Kakai, how far can I go ahead and get my high score? And then even with the newer collections, I still played it, but kind of as time went on, like after maybe a week or two, that new shininess kind of wore off, and then it just kind of sat there. And then, so maybe I would just jump in and play a quick game or two. But then at night, when I'm laying in bed, I'm tired. I have to have my glasses on. If I decide to go, and play the VS, I can do that. It's on a bigger screen. By the way, I have a separate game room to do that, so I don't annoy my wife. For those who are wondering. But I could just kind of lay back, and then and then do that, and not have to worry about it, and not have to worry about anything. My eyes don't feel as stressed. But yeah, this is just kind of more like a midday, kind of waiting for things. Pick it up, play it, put it back. Don't have to think about it. Don't have to wait for anything. For the Steam Deck to turn on. Don't have to really mess with. Oh, I've got to I'm at right now in Astabros, whatever. I'm at a stressful spot. I have to beat the boss. I'm like I don't know. Can I play it out in the living room with all sorts of distractions? Nah, I can just Super Pocket, fire it up, play Bubble Bobble, Puzzle Bob, all those other games. They have a lot of good score chasing games. You don't have to worry about that kind of anxiety and pressure. So that's kind of what I think the use case for. Plus the other thing is that if I had gotten this as a gift, in my first looks video, I was able to trade in a couple games just like lying around that I wasn't using. But I still kind of stand like, by what I said, like I wasn't rushing out just to spend the money to get this. If I didn't have a YouTube channel and care about all of you just to review it and spend time and be able to talk about it, I don't know if I would have gotten it. So I did distract myself, and before we do end this video, because I know this is getting a little bit long, I do want to go back to what I was saying about the arcade one-up syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And kind of the problem that I can see with this device is that what I don't want to see is like, let's say like Namco come out and be like, you know what? I understand you all would love to have arcade carts that you could put out with like, Pac-Man and all those like awesome games. But, we see more money being made off the Super Pocket. Let's go ahead and put it trapped behind there. Like, really? I don't know. And that's just the assumption. Would they make more money? Yes or no? I don't know. But that's what I don't want, like a new Konami collection. And you see all these things. And like, that's the only way you can play these games. It's just kind of trapped behind this device. And the final thoughts I'll leave you here with, for me to buy another one of these devices, it would have to be something like maybe it's Pac-Man and it's yellow and they have only vertical games and the screen is vertical, like it's always in Tate mode. And maybe that would be great. Like jump in, have a little device just to play like Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Mappy. Like that would be great. But if they're gonna do like what they did at this and put games on here that aren't as playable, like Operation Wolf, and you kind of wonder why that game was on here in the first place, then yeah, if they're just gonna throw on a bunch of arcade ROMs and have to squint, I'm like, really? That's sometimes I question I've talked about this, like the playability of certain types of collections, like computer games require mouse and keyboard to really enjoy it. That's the only thing that I would worry about. If they just kind of throw stuff on there, like they did, if there's a Tetris one, yeah. If there's a Tetris one and they're good versions of Tetris, then 100% for sure. But again, if it's going to be like the versions of Tetris that are more like I think maybe the arcade versions, I don't know if it was vertical, but you had 1 player and 2 player, and you're never going to be playing a second player on this device, and that's just going to cut the screen down. But if there were maybe the Game Boy versions, yeah. So that Tetris definitely, if it's like some good versions, I would totally get it. Pac-Man or Namco, if it's done right, then I would consider that. But yeah, if it's, much as I love Konami or some other stuff, if I do really want to play games that aren't on a cartridge system, I can just emulate those on my Steam Deck. Because for me, the whole get of the Evercade is the collectability, the cartridges, the whole experience that I've talked about. And with these embedded games, it just doesn't really do that. Yeah, you could argue that the whole handheld is the embedded. Yeah, I don't know. It's different, right? Like, it just, again, to each their own. Okay, I have rambled on long enough, and I apologize that I've cycled all the way. That I've cycled all the way back here. And so now I'm going to go ahead and end the video. And for those of you stuck with me, I so appreciate it. Oh my goodness, I really appreciate it with me at the end. So if you want to show your love and appreciation that you've watched the whole video, go ahead and put in the comments, Super Pocket for life, Super Pocket for life. That way you'll let me know that you saw the entire video. And I'm going to say thank you to all my channel members. I do really appreciate all the support and all that. And if you would like to go ahead and just support the channel, you can sign up for just $1.99 a month. It really, it does help everything out. I do put out videos, once a month, extra kind of behind the scenes and weird bits that don't really fit in there. And sometimes I'll even put out a video early if I get the chance. However, just subscribing to the channel, commenting, watching my videos, that makes me so happy. That really supports it enough. Anywhoozleby, I need to end this now before I ramble on for another hour. I've really enjoyed making this. Hope you've watched it. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.